Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, series, and more.
I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today is episode 7, aka our final episode of Glow of the Everflame by Penn Cole, covering chapters 44 and 45, plus, of course, the epilogue and the 2 bonus chapters that are available on Penn's website, link in the show notes. Just in case this is your first time tuning into our Kindred's Curse Saga coverage, these deep dive episodes have spoilers for all 3 released books in the Kindred's Curse Saga, which means spoilers for Spark, Glow, and Heat of the Everflame.
So, if you don't know what goes down in the Kindred Temple on Kirill and the 60-ish% of answers that we have for it, honestly, that's a little generous. It's probably closer to 40.
Something like that.
Then please, if you do not know what's going on, go finish the series. We will be here when you're done.
Next, we of Fantasy Fangirls are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
In our coverage of these bonus chapters today, we get a delicious tension time. And now that Diem and Luther are fully together, you know you need to be mindful of those little listening ears.
Additionally, we are so excited to see you at upcoming live events. We will be featured guests at Enchanticon in St. Louis, Missouri, August 15th through 17th.
Then we will be at the Everflame Ball along with Penn Cole for the first ever Kindred's Curse Saga Ball on August 30th in Castle Rock, Colorado. We will also be back at the Dragon Gauntlet in Boyne City, Michigan, September 12th through 13th.
Then Romantasy BookCon in Orlando, Florida, October 23rd through 25th, where we're interviewing Rebecca Yarros again at Disney World. And on March 6th through 8th in Dallas, Texas, we will be podcast partners at Dreamers and Readers Festival.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to all of these events, plus discount codes for some of them as well.
Last thing before we jump into this Glow of the Everflame episode 7, if you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, just so much more all around, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 membership tiers that you can join. Number 1 is the Descended, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and me, a book club, exclusive author interviews, community events, promo codes for live events, plus exclusive designs. We dropped a huge new merch line last week. It was so fun, and you get 20% off all that merch. That is for $6 a month. Or you can join the Royal Family, which includes everything from the Descended level, plus early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines, and special voting privileges. That is for $10 a month. And last but not least, we have the Crowns Council, which includes everything from the previous 2 tiers, plus more behind-the-scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, a private Discord channel. We recently started doing something called Snap Cup on there. Shouts to Jensen, who's been leading that. It makes my heart so happy. You also get your name shouted out on the podcast. That is for $25 a month.
Join the party at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes. And as always, thank you so much for supporting us as we've turned this podcast into a dream come true. It's all because of you, and we appreciate you so much.
And now it is time to go get coronated. Sort of.
To start off every episode, Nicole does us the honor of summarizing this stretch of chapters. So gather round as we consult with our royal advisors to discuss what happens in chapters 44, 45, the epilogue, and the bonus chapters of Glow of the Everflame.
Let's kick it off with the bonus chapters. First off, Diem's POV. The night of the challenging, Diem watches her most trusted inner circle recount the events of her battle, with Taryn playing Diem and Teller playing Ron, Lily proudly narrating the events with a little help from Alix and Luther playing Diem's magic. When the curtains close and the show is over, Diem turns to her most trusted advisor, Eleanor, and announces that she is her new pick for regent. While she's appointing new people to old titles, Diem also contemplates that maybe not every title needs to be filled, and maybe, just maybe, it's time to change things up. After appointing Taryn and Luther as her 2 newest advisors, Diem decides that it's time to take Taryn's other advice and get some debt! I mean, Diem decides to give her and Luther a chance. Speaking of Luther, let's hop to Luther's POV. While Diem and Taryn are dancing on the table, singing drinking songs, Luther is basking in the contentment that he feels watching the people he cares most about in the world get along so well. Taking a moment to himself, Luther offers up 2 drops of magic in thanks thanks to the Blessed Mother Lumnos, grateful for everything she's done for everyone in this room. But that's all he gets. Diem, his queen, pulls him back into the present, a little flirty here, a little teasing there, and Luther is ready to take Diem right then and there. But he'd love to see her on her knees first, submitting to Grandma Lumnos, of course. Get your minds out of the gutter with the knees. While nestled in his lap, Diem took this moment to tell Luther about her failed attempt to break things off with Henry. You know, the man who probably left the realm on what could have been Diem's last day alive. Yeah, that one. But it's okay because Diem confirms that that door is closed forever and she found someone better. Yeah, she did! Scooping up the very drunk, very tired Diem, Luther brings her back to her chambers, ready to tuck her in and dip out. But Diem asks him to stay. And in that moment, Luther Corbois knew he was never letting her go. Oh, chapter 44. With the crown secured, Diem and Luther make their way across the sacred sea to Careel for the rite of coronation, having to opt for a boat since Gryverns are not allowed to set foot on the island. But that's okay, because we now finally get the inside scoop on Luther's childhood and his scar. TLDR. Remus tried to kill Luther's mom. Luther blocked the attack, and Mother Lumnos healed him, saving his life. But Diem spills some tea of her own. The Umbros Queen was in Lumnos, and Orly may or may not have been drugging her with flame root every day for years. Oops, and Luther is pissed. Too bad the boat just docked at the very place Diem's mother is hiding out. I would not want to be Orly right now. Chapter 45. Diem walks the gravel path alone, taking in the sacred land around her. After bumping into 3 of the other crowns, Phanos, Fortos, and Arboros, Diem leaves them alone to bicker while she continues down the path to the Kindred Temple. During her trek, Diem could have sworn she heard some whispers in the bushes. Probably nothing. But wait, what's this? Diem takes a closer look at the red wildflowers that cover the land. It is flame root. But there's no time to question how her mother got so much of this forbidden flower because we have a coronation to attend. Inside the temple, one by one, the other crowns stand at their portals. Under the guidance of the Sophos crown, each crown takes turns cutting their palm and dripping blood onto the heartstone. Finally, it's Diem's turn, but something feels off. It's taking everything in Diem not to turn around and yeet out of here. The magic of the land attempting to push her out. With the ceremonial blade, though, Diem's palm is cut, allowing for the first drop of blood to hit the heartstone. And an ear-splitting crack of thunder shatters the air as the bolt of lightning strikes the stone, breaking it apart. Oh no! In the chaos, Diem hears someone call her name, but it's too late. Everything goes black. Let's back up a little and go to the epilogue. Elsewhere on Careel, Orly Bellator watches the crowns gather at the temple. Finally, Orly can go home to her husband and children. Yikes! Hiding in the tall grass, Orly double checks that all her supplies is packed and ready to go. But suddenly, a hand is slapped over her mouth. Luther is here. Ruh-roh. The two have barely exchanged words when Diem calls out, wondering who's in the bushes. Hey! And if Luther isn't the crown, who is? Slashing Luther's ankles like a chill person would do, Orly chases after the crowns, prepping for the plan she's been waiting months for. Once everything is ready and in place, Orly meets up with Vance, who tries to tell her something, but he doesn't get the chance to as she turns around to watch the rite. There's only one problem, though. She really should have listened to Luther rather than slicing his ankles open, because the new queen, yeah, it's her daughter, but it's too late. With a deafening boom and a blast of fire and rubble, everything explodes. End of book.
It is now time to reach for our 4G magic and unravel key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing, theories, and just so much more. We're jumping straight into a bonus chapter available on Penn's website, first starting with Diem's POV. After Diem's victory at the challenging, huzzah, it is evening, and Diem survived to the end of the day, which she honestly didn't think she would get to experience. And per her earlier request, Eleanor planned an intimate but elaborate celebration dinner for Diem's inner circle. Lily, with the help of Taryn and a reluctant Teller, are putting on a show going beat by beat through Diem's fight. Hey, that's what we do here at Fantasy Fangirls. Perth stands guard despite an invitation to join, keeping a very long line of Corbois cousins out of the dining room. Because, after all, now that Diem has proven herself as a worthy and extremely powerful crown, everybody wants to be her best friend now. But I just love Perth, my boy, and his dedication to his job. The room is in high spirits as they celebrate this victory that's been hanging over their heads for the past month. Step 1, survive the challenging is complete. And not only that, but Diem showed all of Lumnos how strong she is. Yes, their submission was desperate and insincere, and there is absolutely an uphill battle to come, but at least she's alive and the realm is scared of her power. That's a Big deal. That's way better than she ever thought she'd come out of. Once she's coronated, she will have the authority to appoint a new generation of leaders to improve the mortals' way of life and protect truly all of the people of the realm. But Diem's feelings of happiness and relief are tainted by a sense of unease. Diem does not understand how she was able to use that magic the way she did during the challenging. Based on everything she's ever been told, flying and absorbing magic should not be possible for any descended. And that deadly silver light is a huge question she just can't answer.
Speaking of that deadly silver light, there's something else hanging over Diem's head. She killed a man today. The first time she ever had someone die at her hands. Not because she didn't heal them fast enough or anything like that, but it's because her and her magic ended his life. In Romantasy, we can often be pretty desensitized to death, especially of a villain like Ron, but Diem does not view death as that necessary evil. She views it as the absolute last resort. But today, her magic basically acted of its own accord. She hadn't intended to unleash that silver light that, quote, sniffed a person from existence in a blink of an eye. This magic felt different in a way that leaves her deeply unsettled. And I think that's yet another reason why she's feeling so uneasy. Her magic protected her, yes, but it also did so without her willing it or her trying. It's like this scary, deadly weapon lives inside her and she has no control over it. That's terrifying. Diem snaps at the joyous reenacting laughter around her because Taryn may be making light of Ron's demise, but Diem sees it for what it is. A man, at the end of the day, is dead. And while her friends see it as her life was more worthy than the weasel Ron's, she refuses to see it that way. And I'm going to give Diem props here because this is yet another reason why she is the queen that Amarian needs right now. Because the Descended always view their lives more important than mortals or lesser houses or the unhoused.
As queen, Diem needs to start appointing people she can trust for her crown's council, starting with who her regent of the realm is going to be, whose job is to rule in the crown's stead if she is unable to. Like if she happens to get, kidnapped and held hostage, or if she's too ill, like King Ulthar had been and Remus ruled in his place, or during the 30-day crown transition if and when Diem dies, again, like Remus has been doing this past month. But who can Diem trust enough to rule as a crown if she can't? Eleanor Corbois. Diem trusts her wholeheartedly to have the realm's best interest, like all of the realm. She was Diem's first advisor and has served her well, except, for the funeral dress incident, but we've all forgiven her and moved on.
While we have been the first to give Eleanor maybe not the best time and the errors that she has made at the beginning of her role, there is no doubt in our mind that Eleanor is the perfect woman for this job. She has been honest and trustworthy since day one. She understands how court works. She can keep a level head. Let me say that one more time. She can keep a level head. She's good at playing these courtly games. She also has no problem standing up to those who act of their own selfish interests, like her uncles, for example. She has a good relationship with the other houses. And at the end of the day, if she doesn't know what to do, she is well versed enough to know who to go to ask for help. And she is humble enough to listen to them. And most importantly, she and Diem have very much aligned values. She will take care of the mortals. She will hold every life equal if Diem is unable to. One of my favorite parts of the scene is how Alix is actually the voice of reason that impacts Eleanor to really let this sink in. Eleanor knows that Diem trusts her implicitly, but she still feels unworthy of them. But it's Alix, someone who Eleanor has never really been close with, yet she's admired so much. When Alix shares that Eleanor is the only right choice, that means the world to Eleanor. As Alix says, quote, "You'll never feel worthy, cousin. The right people never do. I assure you, people who are far less deserving would happily take the role without a second thought. Perhaps you're the unconventional choice, but that doesn't make you the wrong one." This is such an underrated quote from this series. Oh my God.
I love it. And also something all of us should keep in mind if we are ever interviewing for that job that, feels a little bit out of reach. You deserve that seat at the table.
Yes.
There is just one thing about appointing Eleanor as regent of the realm. That means that Remus won't be the regent anymore. And we all know how Remus feels about his position of power. So to avoid any retaliation before her coronation, which is when she becomes official queen, she's going to hold off on announcing this change in titles until after her coronation, even though Diem will still give Remus and Gareth and Aemon ultimatums, so it is strongly implied that things are about to change big time, but she doesn't officially change them quite yet to Remus. While in the moment, this might seem like a good and safe strategy. Diem has no idea she won't return from the coronation, or that the coronation won't be completed, which will be the opening Remus needs to clutch his hold on power. If Diem's not coronated, then she's not queen yet, and he's still regent ruling in her place. He will declare that until he hears from Diem herself that Eleanor is regent instead, he's not going to honor her appointment. So unfortunately, this decision not to tell Remus before the coronation will indeed backfire on Diem and Eleanor. Although, I'll be honest, even if she did tell Remus, he would still stick to the, well, she's not really queen yet argument. I can't wait to get into Remus's scheming and heat.
Now, you might be saying, what about that one guy who was groomed to be king since birth? What about Luther? Yes, he was trained to be king. But if Diem loses her life, that means he would be the next king. So who would be the regent for the 30-day period of challenging? Because both titles seemingly can't be held by the same person. And based off their apprehension, it sounds like Remus might be brought in because he was the previous regent, which, let's be real, that would be bad news bears. But the regent reigns only if Diem is unable to do so. So like if she's trapped in another realm as a prisoner. And we all know, and Diem does too, that Luther would not stay in Lumnos to rule as regent. He would do whatever it takes to save his girl.
It shows how far Diem has come, trusting that Luther will do anything to save her. We finally got there, everybody! She knows him well enough to not make him regent. With this promotion for Eleanor, Diem's considering who else might be on her crown's council. Naturally, she's inclined to keep those she trusts close. They've proven themselves to be in her corner. They've sworn loyalty to her vision of the future. She trusts their judgment and good intentions, which is extra important in this world of the Descended. And with that said, Diem's inner circle is very young and inexperienced, especially compared to the older Descended who have the political sway, expertise, and connections. Which does bring us back to Remus and his position with the council. Considering how openly hostile he's been to Diem recently, and how he is not on the same page as Diem on how to rule Lumnos, and that he's cold-hearted and only cares about himself. But the thing is, he can be a useful ally and has many connections Diem can use to her advantage. Plus, as much as Diem hates him, his magic is gone and he's going to need someone powerful to protect him. She's got the upper hand on him now that she's promised to keep his secret of having no magic. He kind of needs her protection, especially after her show of power at the challenging and keeping his secret.
Okay, question. Do you think that this line was put in here so we're primed for a Remus, I don't want to say redemption arc, but I'm going to say it just for lack of a better term. Do you think that that's what this is here for?
You know what?
Maybe.
Because I don't think it will be as much of a redemption arc as Aemon, but I do see him kind of like going with the flow with the next.
I see him
I
submitting.
say that so hesitantly. Submitting, that's a good word for it, yes.
I feel like he'll submit, but I'm not going to lie. I'm thinking now about Heat. We have the right to change our minds.
Yes. Let's talk about that later. So with Alix's advice, Diem decides that Remus can stay on her council as an advisor only if he accepts her ultimatum. He can either accept her vision for a new and improved Lumnos or pack his bags and retire into irrelevance. And as we all know, he's far too committed to his position of power to fade into obscurity. So I do think that he would go with the flow there. We'll find out that the next morning before Diem leaves for her coronation, she will give Remus, Gareth, and Aemon the choice to support her vision. They will have until the end of the day. While we know Diem won't return to Lumnos by the end of the day, I am curious if you think any of them would agree with Diem. So kind of like your question just now, sort of, with, redemption arc. I'm leaning toward all three of them would agree. Especially Remus for, all the reasons we've been saying.
I agree,
think,
Remus.
Yeah, I think Aemon would want to. Keyword is want to there.
That's where we might disagree because I agree that Aemon would want to, but the second Gareth doesn't, because I do not see a world in which Gareth would submit to a half mortal, just full stop. I think that's where Aemon, he would feel pressured by his father to be that perfect person. And so he would actually say, he would have said no. But I think internally he wants to say yes.
So yes, that's a really great point. I'm actually going to say I think Gareth would agree, but he would not want to whatsoever, and he would absolutely be sneering about it. And the only reason he would do it is because he does not want to be the only Courbois out. Like,
oh, okay.
He cares a lot about his power and position too. So I do think, however, that he would work in the shadows against Diem.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I think that maybe like, Luther could find out about it, and he could finally justify punishing him.
I heard punch him. That's my
Next, Diem has to consider who her new wardens will be, the Warden of Light and the Warden of Shadows. These two roles traditionally have the power to carry the full authority of the crown. And we all know that Gareth has got to go as Warden of the Shadows, and assumably Aemon as Warden of the Light, now with the knowledge he was the one who ran the mortal boy over. But Diem isn't sure how she can be expected to bestow this kind of power on anyone, since she herself doesn't feel worthy to wield it. So Diem decides maybe it's time for some change. And while she still isn't quite sure what this looks like, she only got past this challenging today, she does know one thing. The mortals make up half of this realm, and they deserve a voice. And if change is going to happen, it needs to start from the top. Diem even plays around with the idea that maybe she should just get rid of these warden roles entirely. Luckily, she does not have to make any decisions tonight, but I love her wheels turning now that she's on the other side of the challenging and able to truly dream of her reign and what she wants to be. Before, it was like she just felt like everything stopped at the challenging because she really was almost scared to think about the future in that way. Just for fun, I wonder what the implications of either of these options would be, either appointing a mortal as warden or removing the titles altogether. Because I can't imagine the Descended would listen to a mortal given the, common hatred they have toward them. But at the same time, that would be a good morale boost for the mortals, seeing that they do have a voice in the new political structure. And Diem's inner circle would ensure their protection, at least to the best of their ability. If there are no wardens, that might be good. But there's so much ambiguity to these rules that it makes me wonder what they really do. Yes, Nicole?
Okay, I have a prediction for Burn, and I don't know if I want this to happen, but I wonder if it's going to happen. Do you think Henry's going to be one of the wardens? Because I think I could see it happening. I don't love it. He would need to go through one hell of a redemption arc, especially because I saw people in our Discord in episode 5 talking about how they believe Henry was part of the attack on Andre, and they had some really good points in there. And I'm like, oh my holy fuck. If it was Henry as part of the attack on Andre, I don't know if he could be redeemed.
And that right there is why I agree that there's really great points, and I've wondered it too. I do think Penn loves him too much. Like, I know she's not trolling us.
No, I know you're right. Yeah, but I could see Henry taking one of these spots at the end of the day, which, interesting.
I have some feelings about that I'm not going to worry about until I see it burn. One thing seems for sure, and that is Diem does not want to keep things the way they are. It's not working, and she wants the power to represent the people. Just gotta figure out exactly what that looks like. This part right here is such great foreshadowing for Montios, when we learn that they have a council, but Diem will chastise them for never appointing a mortal when they were allowed in their realm. And lastly, Diem finally appoints both Taryn and Luther to be official advisors on her crown's council, though any specific roles were not specified.
Let's jump to Luther's bonus chapter. Jumping ahead a few hours, Luther finds himself watching Diem, Taryn, Lily, and Eleanor along the long dining table in the dining room after everyone drank a, quote, alarming yet impressive amount of alcohol. They're singing and dancing and overall having the time of their lives, which they're rightfully deserved after everything that's happened, honestly, today alone, but let alone the last 30 days. And Luther's so happy. He's smiling so much it hurts. It's like his I'm not used to smiling this much cheeks. It makes me so happy, which is a lot because considering when he was a young warthog, he had to control his face and always make sure it was very stoic. And it's just so fun seeing him just like let loose around his family. He's so used to being in that way of life that he actually even slips back into the mask of the emotionless prince as a way to try and protect himself and those around him, even with his closest friends in the room. This protective nature, it's so interwoven into everything that Luther is that he was willing to sacrifice himself at the challenging. Let's never forget that, to protect the ones he loves. And now that it's over and he didn't have to fight, he's so grateful to be here, even if it means watching Diem and Taryn singing mortal drinking songs on the dining table, which is still amazing. He's so happy watching Diem and Taryn dance, especially knowing how long of a journey it was for them all to get here. And he finally gets Diem all to himself. And now that he has her, he's never gonna let her go. And you all know what's gonna happen. Who is ready for attention time? Diem's tight dress is clinging to every inch of her body as she dances, but she saunters her way over to her prince, who's sitting in a chair beneath her like a king. She asks him if he'd like to come up and join, but he much prefers the view from down here. Turned on by their game and feeling loosey-goosey from all the impressive amounts of wine, Diem asks Luther if he was having a convo with Mommy Lumnos, and she brings up how she asked for the guidance of Lumnos today, and yet Mommy Lumnos gave her none. This is one of the big differences between Luther and Diem. Diem is very practical, and it will surprise none of us to hear that she needs signs to be so in her face, even when it comes from a deity up above. But Luther, however, sees signs in all places. Diem getting her magic, winning the challenging, showing an insane amount of power to everyone out of nowhere. Those were like not even neon signs. Those were like loud signs from Las Vegas to him. But don't worry, because we get a moment with the knees. Luther, he's fine with nudging her to submit a little, down on her knees. When Diem playfully fights back, saying that she'll only get down on her knees for him, not Mommy Lumnos, ayo, dominantly, he tells her to kneel for him. Good God! So Diem gets on her knees, submitting a prayer to Mommy Lumnos to give her a sign, but Luther grabs the back of her thighs and pulls her into his lap, straddling him and saying, "There's your sign from Mother Lumnos. Smooth, my guy!"
And then we get the sweetest thing. Luther notes that Diem smells like flowers, which will directly tie into his chapter 44 big reveal as he shares a story about his mortal mother. Quote, "She waited outside the descended school with a bouquet of flowers," and then Luther will go on to say, "Meeting her was like coming home for the first time." Flowers smell like coming home to him. The smell of flowers remind Luther of warmth, love, belonging, and comfort. Oh, I just love it so much. And it's just like how Luther smells like the forest, which is home for Diem. She smells like flowers to him because it reminds him of his mother.
Alrighty, friends, let's jump to the morning after the challenging. It is finally time to head to Kareel in Diem's POV for the first time in this entire coverage. We've been talking about Kareel since episode 1, and it's finally time to go there. Wow. Diem and Luther are taking advantage of their alone time on the Crown's boat to be with just each other, and for the first time in a long time, Diem is truly happy. One of the things I love about the 2 bonus chapters and then this chapter is we just get to spend time with these characters who are just like happy. They're having a good time. Like things are at peace for them. And that's just really nice. It's nice to read about people who are happy. Gah, I'm so happy for her. It hasn't been a month since her father's death, and she's been on this nonstop roller coaster of tragedy after tragedy, and finally being able to take a moment and breathe and really embrace the wind in her face, the gratitude for the man at her back is just, it's no small feat. And it's not that her grief is gone, but it's that she's feeling like she can finally hold space for both emotions at once. Pause. Emotions, because guess what's back? Emotions for Diem! Yay! So happy. But we have to wonder about this boat, because Vance and Henry plan to put something on it at some point, and Diem may or may not be on it when it happens. We do know that before they hopped on this boat journey to Kareel, that she had Luther search the boat high and low, and he found no signs of it being tampered with.
But we do know that there were multiple boats in the underground canal, so I'm under the impression the Guardians used at least one different boat, leaving soon after Luther and Diem. So after, Luther and Diem got their head start, then, Henry and Vance and whoever other the Lumnos Guardians, they went south to meet up with the Arboros people so they could sneak the bombs onto Kareel. Unless the Guardians really did go to Arboros and then they took all the boats from there. Actually, that would align more with Henry's timing being gone for several days before the coronation. But we have to remember they did have access to the underground canal and knew where it was thanks to running away from Diem once they weren't blindfolded. The bloodlocks are just to get inside the palace through the dungeons, not to get into the underground canals.
So rather than us losing sleep at night over are the Guardians on the boat? Are they in Arboros? Where are the Guardians?
Not in their boat, though. Not in Diem and Luther's boat.
No, wouldn't they be like, there's only one person needed on this journey and Luther came along for, Luther reasons. Why would other boats be trailing after them?
They specifically got the royal boats so that the army patrols wouldn't stop them. That was the whole point of needing a royal boat.
See, I thought that Henry and the Guardians would be on the boat. Because
I don't think there's that much space. Because
okay,
also,
we're asking Penn.
Wait, one more thing before we ask Penn. I have not listened to this phone of Penn yet. Is that Orly was only able to bring so many bombs with her, smuggling them with Luther. So that makes me think that they aren't able to bring, think about all the weapons and the bombs and all of that they have to bring. How big of a yacht are they on right now? Well, I thought it was just like a little, a rowboat like the Sophos has.
It's a royal boat. What are you talking about? Row, 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 your royal boat.
Well, I know that Sopho makes them go extra fast, so they're speedboats. So you're on a speedboat to Kareel right now.
I can't wait for you to be wrong. Okay, let's roll the phone, Ben.
Hello again, ladies from the beautiful United Kingdom. Penn here to answer more of your phone a pen questions. Today, your first question is, were the Guardians on the boat with Luther and Diem when they went to Kareel? So I don't want to answer this question because I really want to write a bonus chapter someday that addresses this and where we see what happened with Luther after Diem walked away from him on the island. But I will say that there was definitely a confrontation between Luther and Henry at the Lumnos port that got very heated, and the Guardians didn't check out that boat for no reason. So we'll leave it at that.
Okay, so first of all, we still don't entirely know. But second of all, we do know that Luther tells us in Heat that he did see Henry, and he was the one who actually brought Henry back to Lumnos. So that's the confrontation I think she's talking about right here when they're on Kareel, and Luther is super pissed off at Henry because he's there, and then he makes sure that he does get him back to safety.
That's my guess, is that Henry was on the boat, and Luther's getting off, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? That's where that big heated confrontation is. But then Luther's like, Diem would be so pissed if Henry got hurt, and he's dragging him by his collar to get him back on the boat.
Bombs.
I'm saying both. He was on the royal boat, not rowboat. He was on the royal boat both times.
Now we have to wait for whatever the bonus chapter is.
I love you, Penn.
Back to the boat, whatever size it is, we can practically hear, now's your moment, floating in a blue lagoon. Boy, you'd better do it soon. No time will be better. That's right, Luther. You two are all alone. It's after the challenging. It's finally time to kiss the girl. Time to tell Diem your biggest secret. As he explains to Diem, Luther has wanted to tell Diem this since the day he met her, but he knew she wasn't ready yet. Luther understood that Diem needed to wholeheartedly trust him, his motivations, his intentions before he revealed this to her. Not because she didn't deserve to know, but because she wouldn't have believed him. Which, yeah, we know that Diem clung to anything bad about Luther, as few and far between those revelations were. Amen. What he's about to share with her is such an unlikely truth that she would have thought he was playing her. And I can't even imagine if Luther had shared his trauma like this, as well as Lumnos' vision, and Diem would just throw it back in his face. So he waited until she was ready to listen with her heart.
Gather round, friends. It's story time. Luther shares that Ivana, Remus's wife, is not his mother, not by blood or any other measure. Gasp! After Remus's and Ivana's marriage, Mother Lumnos sent Remus a vision. Remus's firstborn son would be the most powerful of all the Lumnos descended and the unquestioned heir to the crown. Pause. Because I don't feel like this is just a throwaway vision. I wonder if this is foreshadowing for a misinterpreted vision. Like maybe instead of the son, it's actually Diem and Luther's son. So like it'll be Remus's grandson will be the most powerful because it'll be the child of two half-mortals and a little bit of the Everflame as well. And also the Kindred.
I don't know if that would make a Lumnos crown.
Maybe just crown? It doesn't say the heir to the Lumnos crown. It just
That
says
is
the heir
true.
to the crown. And I have a follow-up theory. Or will Diem become the ruler of all of Amarian, and then Luther will step in to rule over the Lumnos, and that's what this is referring to.
As adorable as the first option is, I'm leaning toward the latter. Or maybe that Diem won't rule all of Amarian, but Luther will be the crown of Lumnos eventually by the end of the story.
See, I'm leaning towards the first option, mainly because I think that that's just fun storytelling.
I think so, too.
I love a misinterpretive prophecy. Anyway, Remus was having an affair, though, all the while with a mortal woman named Floriel. And it was Floriel, not Ivana, who got pregnant first. So Luther is indeed a half-mortal.
The gasp I gasped when I first read this. Like, let's all remember back the first time that it was revealed that he is half mortal. I do remember, however, in our book club for Spark, there was speculation that Luther was half mortal because his eyes had a gray hue to them. And that was before anybody had read further along to Glow. So yes, mostly right there.
After Remus found out about Floriel's pregnancy, he took both Ivana and Floriel to spend a year at a house in the countryside away from prying eyes.
Can you even imagine this setup? I don't like Ivana, like at all, but to be stuck in a house for a year with your husband's pregnant mistress because her child is supposed to be the next crown. Never mind mortal or descended. That's a nightmare. And same for poor Floriel, who has no say in the matter of her child being taken away from her. My mama heart.
It was this way that when Floriel gave birth, they would be able to pass Luther off as Ivana's full-blooded descended child to avoid any progeny laws. After Luther's birth, Remus sent Floriel to an institution for the mentally unstable in Sophos. This way, he was able to discredit her in case she ever tried to tell anyone about the pregnancy. I don't think I've ever meant these words more. Fuck you, Remus! What the fuck, my guy? L. Not even L. Like, what's worse than a smiting L? This is a go to hell. Go to hell.
I'm sorry, I should not be laughing, but yes.
But Floriel, she never stopped thinking about Luther and trying to escape to get him. Oh my God. All the while, Luther has been growing up, believing that his mother is Ivana. Since in the descended world, it's not uncommon for parents in larger houses to be cold to their children. We saw that with Evram last book. Luther did not really think anything of it the way that Ivana acted towards him. Although she did outwardly despise him versus just being cold in that descended way. Eventually, years later, Floriel did succeed in her escape from this mental institution. She somehow made her way all the way back to Lumnos and waited outside the descended school with a bouquet of flowers. And even with all the time that had passed, she was able to know exactly who her son was. Pause again, because the name Floriel originates from the French word fleur, which means flower. And what did she bring Luther? Flowers. And as we learned in the bonus chapter, what's his favorite smell in the world? The smell of Diem and the smell of home? Flowers. Oh my God. Floriel told Luther the truth about everything. And that's when it all started clicking into place for him. Why Ivana hates him so much. Why his father is so insistent that he be king, even though his magic hadn't come in yet. Floriel wanted to take Luther and run away from the meanness of his family in Lumnos, but she didn't have the means at the time, and she was too weak from probably traipsing across half the continent. For months, Luther kept her hidden in unused rooms in the palace, saving up gold so that they could start a new life elsewhere. But Remus noticed a change in Luther, and one day he followed him right to Floriel. Floriel threatened Remus, ready to expose everything about their affair, about their half-mortal son, etc. And Remus unleashed his magic at her, fully intending to kill her to keep his secrets safe. This so unfortunately does not surprise me about Remus. Remus trusted the vision that Lumnos sent him, yes, but the moment his own neck was on the line in this way, he does whatever it takes to do any kind of self-preservation, of course. But it's Luther, and he stepped in the line of fire, taking the brunt of the magic, which ripped his body body apart. Remus thought Luther had been killed instantly, but his mother knew he was alive and threw her body over him. So then Remus hit her with a bolt of magic and left them both there to die. And sadly, Floriel did. In Luther's POV chapter, we learn that this is when he promised he would never let his walls down again, because the last time he did, the woman he loved, his mother, ended up dead. And now all his walls have crumbled down when it comes to Diem, and while it's exhilarating, he's also terrified that now something is going to happen to her. I wanted to highlight this because this is a belief system we are going to keep at the forefront of our brain as we go through especially the first half of Heat of the Everflame.
But as Luther was left there to die with his body ripped open, that's when Mother Lumnos appeared before Luther, and while she couldn't save his mother, she miraculously healed him. Lumnos told Luther it is not his time yet. She told him that her people needed help and Luther could bring it to them, if he was strong enough. Then she showed Luther a vision. In this vision, Luther saw himself as a man, kneeling to a powerful, gray-eyed queen. Since he never saw the full face of the queen, Luther believed it was Lumnos herself that he was kneeling before, since only the kindred themselves had gray eyes. How very interesting! Have we ever mentioned that yet? But once Luther saw Diem in the palace the day Lily was injured, he started to wonder if maybe it wasn't Lumnos who was going to be queen, but a certain totally mortal female healer. Luther could feel Diem's power, but nothing else was adding up. Diem was swearing she was mortal. She said her father was from Fortos, and Moira said she was born with brown eyes. Things didn't make sense until these two shared a vision the night of the rebel attack, when there was a crown on top of Diem's head, like Luther's never seen before or since. Ah, yes, because she's got multiple crowns. Then he truly understood the night Ulther died and Diem got the crown. The vision he received from Lumnos wasn't of she herself or a disciple like Luther. No, this gray-eyed queen is the queen Luther was always meant to serve. This is why he's so devout to Blessed Mother Lumnos. She saved his life, and she told him her people needed help, and he could help if he was brave enough, and if he serves this gray-eyed queen. We might not know how old Luther is, on purpose as we know, but we do have some timelines dropped, like decades and such. So I think it's safe to say he's not in his just mid-20s like he looks. This vision from Lumnos was at least decades ago. Oh, he's waited his whole life for this.
Oh, but while we're talking about visions, let's discuss the vision from the challenging. Because as Luther points out, she was called Daughter of the Forgotten. Remember, they both had this vision at the challenging, even though we were just in Diem's POV. But does that name mean anything to you, Diem? Ho ho ho, hold her beer, Luther. Diem mentions the other times where she has heard the phrase, and don't worry, you're going to hear it again today. Most specifically from the Queen of Umbros, when she talked to her back at Chapter 1 of Spark, telling her to stop taking the flame root her mother was giving her. Alarm! 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 Luther's like, I'm sorry, come again? Yes, this is the first time she mentions flame root to Luther. Diem has pieced together that her mother knew she was descended, and drugging her to keep her magic at bay was the only way to protect her.
That was just a few days after Diem became queen, when she ran into Henry. So it's been a month since she learned and put two to two together that, flame root is why she was not showing any of her magical powers. To be honest, I think it's something that just hasn't come up with all, the current problems at hand that she's dealing with, and her father dying and not speaking to Luther and facing her own death. I can see how it really just didn't come up until this moment. But now that she shares this with Luther, I would like to quickly point out how Henry took the news versus Luther. Henry focused on the Guardians and not caring whatsoever for Diem's mother's betrayal to her daughter. Then we have Luther, who is pissed on Diem's behalf. Well, and for a lot of other reasons.
Luther, however, knows how calculating Orly can be, and that's one of the reasons why, upon hearing this, he is livid. He says, quote, "That's why you never," and why she wanted to go, fuck. Let's finish these sentences for Luther. That's why you never manifested powers or showed any powers. That's why she wanted to go to Kirill, because he believes she knew Diem was going to be the most powerful and was going to be the queen. We cannot stress that enough. Luther is thinking that Orly believed Diem was going to be queen, and that's how powerful she was. So Orly felt like she could get away with being on Kirill because she would have the power of the crown behind her. Like, I'm wondering if that's where his mind is going.
Oh, interesting, because I thought he bought her idea of needing medicinal herbs that needed, a long time to harvest. We already knew that. But now with the knowledge about the flame root, he's like, what the fuck? Because he didn't know about flame root before when he initially agreed to help Orly, and now he knows he was tricked. I'm not sure if him saying like he didn't know about flame root, whether that's in reference to flame root whatsoever, or that it only grows on Creel. Which either way, how? Luther has been getting groomed to be the new Lumnos crown for so long, and he didn't know about flame root? Like, wow. I do wonder when did he learn about it between Foraging Day and Diem's coronation? Like, that would have had to happen off page.
I wonder if he was doing research to see how her powers were suppressed for so many years. Because he didn't start feeling her until a few months ago. And he would have been like, that's weird. I want to do some research about this. So I could see that happening off page.
But then he's so surprised about the flame root.
That's true. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. One thing is for certain. Orly, girl, you got a lot to answer for, and Luther is done protecting her. Can I just say, hooray! So the moment this coronation is over, we're gonna have a talk with her. Little does he know, it's gonna take a minute for that talk to happen.
Okay, we are finally on Creel from Diem's POV. Everybody stay calm. While today's Sophos library topic is Creel, let's do a quick refresher before we dive into all the juicy details later. Creel is the island in the very middle of the sacred sea that Amarian surrounds. Originally, Creel was the sacred location of the old mortal religion and rumored to be where the Everflame was. According to history, the mortals gifted Creel to the kindred, who then made it sacred with the forging spell and set up the Godstone Temple.
On Creel, there is also the KINDRED'S temple, which, small note about this temple, quote, even some whispered that the temple was a source for all descended magic and that destroying it would be the end of their reign over mortals for good. Can we agree on something this episode?
Yes, I actually have this in foreshadowing. So yes,
Okay.
let's talk about this.
Okay.
I think that this is absolutely why the Guardians want to take Creel here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I definitely think that's why they want to take the island. I could see this also coming back into play and the temple being destroyed, especially with how Diem reacts to it later, which we'll get into. But this is not a throwaway line.
Oh, absolutely not. I also wonder if Diem would be the only one to be able to destroy the Godstone Temple.
Ooh, I could see that because I feel like she'd be one of the only people who can destroy Godstone, period.
Oh, and maybe the Everflame will start coming back.
Oh, I love that.
Each of the crowns are arriving for the ceremony, docking at their designated piers that have gravel pathways toward the KINDRED'S temple. I'm assuming Lumnos is west because they are west of the Sacred Sea, like how we know Arboros' dock is on the south side of the island and Arboros is in southern Amarian.
Yeah. Since no one told her where to go, Diem just starts walking up the trail that winds in and out of the grassy hills, and she ends up running into Queen Alani of Phanos. Phanos is wearing a short fitted dress made up of patchwork of different animal hides, a tall feather collar, and chains that are dangling with small bones and sharp fangs on her wrist. And just like the rest of her realm, she's on the prowl. She's swaying her hips all seductively as she walks. She's probing her hand on her waist, and she even calls Diem kitten and cub. So I wonder if this is a Phanos thing to use those types of names with each other, or if this is just a Phanos crown thing.
I don't know, but I just love how it embodies her character so much. You can tell Penn has so much fun bringing these other realm crowns to life. Also, Alani does mean female high chief, and that's really cool.
That is really cool. We also know that there's a rumor among mortals that Phanos magic can transform themselves into other animals. Is that relevant to this conversation? No. Do I need to bring it back up? Because yes, I so badly want to see this on the page. Like, I want to see Diem transform into a tiger Jahira style.
I'm so sorry that I'm sticking to my boring idea that this is an example of mortal exaggerations because they don't understand the descended magic, which the descended, of course, made sure of, so that there is that air of mystery to it.
Anyway, throughout their conversation, Phanos further exemplifies the nature of her realm. When Diem questions Phanos on whether or not it bothers her to kill something she can talk to, like the cute little fuzzy yummy creature gifts that she gave to Diem as the Ascension Ball present, but really it was a gift for Sarai. I love that Phanos didn't give Diem a gift. She gave Sarai a gift. That's so good. Phanos emphasizes that it's hunt or be hunted, and that way of thinking really embodies the Phanos descended, saying things like, quote, the strong feed from the weak, or Quote, guilt and compassion have no place in the food chain, only survival. This is, on one hand, not far off from Andre's most important teaching, which is survival at all cost. But these life mottos also don't necessarily go hand in hand with Diem's beliefs. She is planning on ruling off of compassion, and hearing Fanos say that there's no place for that in the food chain makes me think that, I don't know, Alani, I don't know if she's going to be the queen of Fanos much longer. Not that Diem's going to kill her, but just that I don't see that line of thinking in Diem's new realm.
I was wondering just about how Fanos is going to play into the larger role as we get into Burn, given this outlook, whether that is her or even her people that Diem would now be ruling. Yeah. But yeah. The Fanos descended have detached themselves from the mortals, and they have this survival instinct. Like, again, I'm not saying I want the Fanos queen to die, but how cool would it be to be in Diem's head if she gets the Fanos foraging magic? I want to see more communication with the animals. Like, can we please stick a tiger on Vance? Please? Then you didn't actually kill him. Don't worry. The next crown we meet on Kareel is Fortos, a hulking giant of a man with thighs like redwoods and a brick wall of a chest, wearing a fancy version of the Amarian army uniform. What a surprise, knowing that this realm has only ever had a king and they value strength and not the tiger, but just like the, I'm strong. Diem notes his fearsome glare would even have a mean bastard like Gareth cowering in fear. He's also extremely blunt, not just to Diem, but to the other crowns as well. Like he does not have time to be here. He's got an army for 9 realms to lead. When Diem starts to mention her parents, the King of Fortos cuts her off and tells her outright that she cost him 2 of his most valuable assets. His top-ranked mortal commander and Orly as a healer, but really a spy who took on extra special missions. As the head of the Amarian army, this does make sense. He doesn't view people as individuals with lives, families, wants, and fears, but as assets to further strengthen his own army.
Well, and as we'll learn more in Heat, Orly worked very closely with the Amarian army. Like you said, not just as a healer, but as a spy. And a damn good one, because she was such a good spy, who are already supposed to be so under the radar, that she got the notice of the king. I feel like that's either a really good spy or a really bad spy.
In her case, a really good spy. And that's really saying something, yeah.
So him calling Orly one of his best assets is very true. For years, she spied on the Guardians and even notable descended houses who were known to bed mortals. But in spying on the Guardians, Orly grew sympathetic to their cause and decided that she would instead change alliances. Now spying on the Amarian army for the Guardians, but still holding her role as spy for the Amarian army against the Guardians. She's passing along false information to the King of Fortos, which I'm guessing based off of his reactions here, he still doesn't know that she was telling him false shit.
Oh, yeah, I don't think so at all. He's just like, oh, my best spy retired because she had a baby on a mission.
That sounds like the King of Fortos. But real quick, let's summarize the King's involvement in that mission. Because the King of Fortos approached her about the possibility of rebels on Kareel, and he wanted her to go to the island for a year to see if that was the case. Despite her knowing that these rumors were hilariously false, she accepted the job, wanting to gain any access she could to the mysterious isle. But when she came back, she left the army to then run off with Diem.
I wonder if this was when she got the idea that rebels should go to Kareel, since we know this mission to bomb the island had been in the works for years and years.
I could totally see that. Yes.
Yeah.
Flipping over to Andre, though, because it wasn't just Orly being one of his top assets. Andre was one of the top assets for the King of Fortos because he is one of the top mortal army commanders in history. This would absolutely grant him notice of the king. Although I do wonder if it was Orly who, I'll say, knew him better, like given the secret nature of her role and their work together. So how strange it would be for Diem to have this conversation with the king, hearing that both of her parents held a close relationship with the army commander. Oh, Orly, your secrets, they're about to be flooded out.
And Diem still has no idea about her mother's involvement with the Guardians, so she's just all here being proud of her mom as a healer. Even now with her mother's secrets, starting to come to light, Diem still only knows her mom as a healer who, happened to help people with Luther, and not with the Guardians, and especially not their leader or a spy. In an effort to get on the King of Fortos' good side, since all he sees her is the reason he lost his 2 best assets, Diem thanks him for the weapons his representatives gifted her at the Ascension Ball. And hey, that blade was made by Breck, right? Here she is thinking they have a mutual friend and showing she has an eye for weapon craft to recognize who made it. That's gotta get her on the King of Fortress's good side, right? Well, no, because fuck, that was the wrong thing to say. Because it turns out Breck disappeared from Fortos earlier this week with a very important stash of weapons. Earlier this week, you say? Like the same timing for Henry and Lana, who have both left Lumnos too? Breck's disappearance with weapons can only mean one thing. He's with the Guardians. And this is also when she finds out that Breck lied to her. Remember back in Spark when he shared he met her mother while in the army only after Henry kicked him under the table and gave him a look? Yeah. That was Breck having to change course when he realized Diem had no idea about her mother's involvement with the Guardians, so he had to lie and say he met her when they were both in the Imarian army. And here the king is like, that's not possible because he joined the army well after your mother left. And now with Diem accidentally saying her family is connected to Breck, who is now a known Guardian member by the king, that's not good. That's gonna bite her in the butt later. Diem doesn't even have time right now to speculate why Breck lied to her and how he really does know her mother. There's too much else going on.
After Fortos, we meet the Queen of Arboros. She comes across so sweet, so demure, very mindful, but the sparkle in her eyes suggests that she's anything but meek.
And with how quick she snaps back at Fanos, I can confidently say I would not want to cross her. She's wearing a halo of interwoven greenery dotted with continually blossoming flowers. How lovely! We'll learn more about Arboros in Heat, like how she herself is also a half-mortal. I love how they're more common than people realize. And she's more proof that half-mortals are particularly strong. Though it is important to note that Arboros does not have the same progeny laws as Lumnos. It's one of the most mortal-friendly realms.
I do wonder if that was when she became queen. She was the one who made that ruling because of her own lineage.
I could see that too, yes.
Yeah.
When Fanos brings up the mortals from Arboros are not staying on the ring road like they're supposed to when they're in her realm, Arboros brushes her off, saying life is meant to propagate and spread. Already a nice little clue about her sympathies with the Guardians and especially the mortals. Fanos might agree that yes, life is meant to propagate and spread, but only when it pertains to the birds and the bees and the butterflies and not to the humans. Arboros doesn't believe that anyone should be defying nature's course, that the borders should be open to allow both animals and humans to propagate as they please. Given that the magic of the Arboros realm is communicating with plant life, I can see why this would upset her. She wants to make sure all her people are happy, and that includes the flowers. I also love the politics between realms with how magic comes into play. Like how Fanos threatens to take the bees and insects away from pollinating in Arboros. Don't love that she made that suggestion, but this is a great added layer of political magic sway.
I love that they're also bordering each other because that just makes so much sense. It just makes so much sense. Now,
and they're kind of like the two queens who are against all the other guys because they're not friends with
Yes.
Arboros.
Now, I was curious if the reason Fanos is getting on Arboros over the mortals traveling is because of the most recent travel. Guardians of Lumnos have been traveling through Fanos in order to get to Arboros for this big Guardian mission. And I could absolutely see them being all like, we're about to take over the Descendants, so let's be all rebellious, and like walking off the ring road at Fanos, a realm that is forbidden to mortals unless they are sticking to the ring road.
I 100% agree. You hear that, Nicole? We actually agree on something here today.
Proud of us, finally. I feel like we're back in Empyrean this episode. Good God.
Let's go find out from Penn what this feud is all about, and yes, to see if we're right.
We got to be right about something after last time.
Question 2. Were the queens of Arboros and Fanos arguing about the Guardians coming through Fanos to get to Arboros? So, yes, but not just the Guardians. Arboros had definitely made her realm a place that was welcome for mortals. That includes the Guardians and just regular mortals. And she was trying to make Arboros a safe haven for them. And so she basically opened her doors to any mortals who would come to her realm. But in order to get there, they would either have to go through Igneos, where of course they weren't allowed, or through Fanos. And we know that though mortals were allowed on the ring realm coming through Fanos, if they stepped off, she and her people were not welcoming to them. So I think that any mortal who traveled through Fanos, if God forbid they had to stop for the night and rest, had a really dangerous time there trying to get to Arboros. So yes, that definitely included a lot of Guardians. And as we know, the Guardians did not like following the rules when it came to rules set on mortals, but also just any mortals coming through the realm.
I will accept that as 70% correct.
Yes, I will accept that.
Give me an A, Penn! Give me an A! Alone again as the other crowns go about their business, Diem continues her walk to the temple, but hears some nearby whispers in the tall grasses. After a few hellos and is someone there's, nothing comes out to eat her, so I guess it must be an animal. But we have read Orly's epilogue, and we know that it is her in the bushes hiding away from the crowns to stay out of sight, because if they caught her, she'd be absolutely fucked.
Well, and she's also not able to see Diem's face. All she can glimpse is the glow of the luminous crown just above the tall grass. And she does recognize the voice as feminine, but she doesn't piece together that it's her daughter's voice. I think because it's so far from the realm of possibilities for her daughter to be Queen of Lumnos, and, Diem and Crown of Lumnos are too disconnected in her brain to even consider putting 2 and 2 together.
Well, and I also feel like Diem, with how much she's been through in the past 8 months from post seeing Orly, I would not be surprised if her voice had changed, not like dropped, but got more authoritative or more just confident in herself. Like, I wouldn't be surprised about that. But then Orly, a hand covers her mouth and pins her to a large chest. Luther apparently has the nose of a bloodhound, because those whispers that Diem hears are Luther and Orly whispering about, why the hell are you not the king? And Luther believing that Orly's a slippery snake who's been playing him this whole time. And of course, stubborn Orly is not wanting to hear out Luther on who this new queen is. So Orly, who's so laser focused on this mission that she's been preparing 8 months for, sees that Luther is trying to hold her back, so she slices open his ankle tendons in order to get away from him and keep on keeping on with the mission. Note that Luther's going to be fine. He's just downed for a few minutes until his descended healing gets in the way, until his descended healing heals him. But it is enough time for her to go and fulfill the mission before he would get healed. Honestly, we're going to get a lot more into this and Orly's decisions in a little bit next chapter, and then especially next book. But there are some questions. Why didn't Luther stand up and say, "My queen," points to mother, "your mother"? And I think that there's multiple reasons behind that. Number one, he's not allowed on this island. So he only snuck in so he could confront Orly and be like, "What the fuck, my girl? I stuck my neck out for you and you have royally fucked me over. Can you tell I feel a certain way about this?" Number two, I think in some way he does still have that loyalty to Orly. Like, yes, he's pissed at her. Yes, he feels like he totally got played, but he still did make her promises. And he's wanting to at least give her a moment to explain her reasoning before he completely outs her to his queen.
I think the main reason he doesn't out her earlier is because he knows Orly needs to tell her daughter herself.
Well, in 3, if he stands up with, just picture this, he's got a mouth, like a hand over Orly's mouth. He's gripping her in his clutches, and he stands up and being like, "I got your mom." That's not a good look for your new boyfriend. I'm not gonna lie. And number 4, it's her coronation day. She's got bigger fish to fry, and he knows that this can wait.
And number 5, we need high stakes, and this is good storytelling with mystery.
Yes, that is true as well. But that doesn't stop from something very suspicious catching Diem's eyes in the grass.
Flameroot, what are you doing here? Diem learned back in Spark that the substance she took every day for 10 years is under high security, and it was a mystery about how her mother retrieved it. We speculated a lot about that this episode, and I'm going to do it again here. But Diem didn't know where Flameroot came from until this moment when she sees the flowers the powder is made from growing here on the island. Which, yes, this makes sense that this is where the Flameroot comes from. The island's soil nullifies magic, and the flowers grow from the soil, so they're imbued with that same nullifier too. But this leaves one gigantic question. How in the world did Diem's mom get so much supply of it? She wonders why the knowledge of Orly getting Flameroot upset Luther so much, and it's because he just put 2 and 2 together that she is harvesting Flameroot on the island. Orly convinced him to take her here in the first place because she needed to get medicinal plants only found on Kareel. And turns out those medicinal plants are Flameroot, which Luther does not want her to have or anybody to have. But back to how Orly got the Flameroot. I don't think she brought it all back with her from her first trip. We know from Glow's epilogue that a decade's worth of stash is a lot. And she did go back with the King of Fortos. Oh my god, are we bringing up the boat thing again here? She didn't have that much sneaky space. Plus, she had a newborn with her. She had a newborn. And I also don't think her mom was quite thinking that far ahead with, Flameroot, because she didn't have to give it to her daughter for another 10 years.
So where would she have gotten it?
Well, we have to remember the Crescent saved vial that Diem saw back in Fortos with that Flameroot powder. It's the same vial that Diem has always seen. So I think one of two things. One, the Arboros Queen has been taking flame root back from the island for the mortals over the years. I don't know if that's right, though. That would be a big jump for her. So this is what I really think, then, is Orly and the Guardians have been able to steal it while in transit to Fortos, where it's kept under lock and key.
See, I'm going to agree with you, but with an asterisk. I think it's just Orly who's been stealing. Remember, she was a spy.
I absolutely agree. Yes.
I don't think it was the Guardians because they didn't seem to really know about it.
Except
until
Del
Diem.
does.
Del does, that's true. But I still do
yeah.
think it's just Orly because she also wouldn't have wanted the Guardians to know why she's stealing it. So I
Exactly.
think it would have just
agree.
been her. Yeah.
Yes. And also, Del says, yeah, Orly told us to give this much. And then they like tripled the dose or something like
Which
that.
I'm going to have words for next episode. That is like going to a pharmacy, getting your medicine, and then saying 3 times this amount is probably okay. As much fun as it is to roam the tall grasses of Kareel, we've got a coronation to get to. To the temple! The Kindred Temple is the main structure on Kareel and is built to serve as the symbolic map of all of Amarian. It is entirely made of Godstone, with a staircase that curves around the outside into a circular platform high above the ground. It's edged nearly all the way around in a series of ornate archways and topped with tall, thin obelisks. 8 of these obelisks are topped with a flame-lit cauldron, with only one being unlit. Lumnos's. Each of the 9 arches point towards their respective realm, with the realm's emblems being etched into the floor and carved deep into the tall obelisks, where they glow as if lit from within. Ooh, so pretty. The center of the open-air rotunda represents the island of Kareel, and on a low pedestal holds a large, rough-hewn stone, aka the Heartstone. When Diem enters, she notices a grim, lethal energy that buzzes beneath her feet. Question, do you think that's because the Godstone and it's like her magic reacting to the Godstone? Or do you think it's the remainders of the Everflame beneath her feet? And maybe the Everflame is like pissed for being taken down, or she like recognizes a kindred spirit, if you will, within the Everflame. Which one, or is it none of the above?
I never thought about that with the Everflame. I assume the only magic she is feeling is from the Heartstone because its magic recognizes her and she's not welcome here. That's like that lethal energy, that kind of like negative connotations there. That's where I was thinking. I just love overall the descriptions of how the air feels ancient, like how this is a vacuum of time and space where the impossible becomes reality. Like, I just love magic.
Other than the 9 obelisks with the center podium, we do have some new crowns here. Keep it up with the crowns. It is time for Miros.
The Miros King looks every bit the charming rogue his representatives at the ball had been. He wears casual attire, as if he decided to swing by in the midst of a long sail because, he was just in the neighborhood. I just love that for the King of Miros. He's got a carefree, playful demeanor compared to the other crowns, going as far as to even wink at Diem when she looks at him. This makes me want to go to Miros so badly. We also do get little hints here that he and Sophos have a good relationship, setting us up for Doriel convincing Miros to vote on Diem's behalf at the end of Heat.
Well, let's talk about Doriel, because next we have the Sophos crown. The crown of Sophos is the designated leader for all the rituals. Makes sense, they're the realm of knowledge. But they also very much care about the rules and the order of the ceremonies, needing everyone to follow the script to a T and not starting until everyone is in their correct place. Also, no daggers or weapons, everyone. Only the ceremonial dagger.
I wonder if this is how it's always been, because in Montios's diary, it's stated that the Sophos kindred is also their leader and spearheaded the forging spell. So it has always been the Sophos crown is the leader of the ceremonies and all of that.
I'm going to go with yes. I feel like that just makes sense.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. With the nature of their realm being all things knowledge, it is no surprise that they're also very inquisitive towards Diem, asking questions about her upbringing and trying to get any information they can out of her. Again, bringing up her mortal brother and telling her that her upbringing is simply fascinating. I would have been like, hello, we just met. How do you know my upbringing? I keep going back to that phone a pen we had a few episodes ago during the Ascension Ball, where she mentioned Sophos has spies in almost every realm. So I have a question. Do you think their spy is a named character who spilled the tea, or do you think it's someone off page? basically.
I could see Bennett telling them, even though he didn't like outwardly call, Diem out for being half mortal, as he kind of played along with the Corpois ruse. I don't think it matters at the end of the day. I think it is just kind of like that. Like, yeah, like they have this information because they have spies.
While Doriel on the surface isn't mean or nasty or even rude, in fact, their voice is actually smooth and amenable. Their expressions soft, their words diplomatic. But Diem's instincts are hissing in her ear, warning her to beware, beware, beware. Okay, do you think that this is foreshadowing for the end of Heat, or do you think that this is something we actually haven't seen yet? Because while Doriel, I can't believe I'm doing this, while Doriel makes some interesting choices at the end of Heat of the Everflame, from their point of view, I don't think that they were evil choices.
Yep.
I think that they are doing what they believe is best for the realm, and how Diem is not it. She's not what's best for the realm. So do you think that's foreshadowing for their bonded bargain they make, or do you think it's something else?
I think maybe a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. What if it's Sophos specifically, who Omnos had the most beef with? Like, it was the Sophos Kindred's idea to sacrifice him. And Diem's uneasiness with Sophos and its crown is maybe her godhood warning her because of its own grudge. Like, that feels like a little bit of a stretch, but I don't know.
I could see it. I don't think that's a stretch. I think that's a fun theory. Not a fun theory, but like that's a cool theory. You're a cool mom.
Cool mom. The king of Igneos saunters into the temple with an air of superiority, and he's as rough and harsh as his realm. His clothing is simple and functional, not over the top like Sophos, and he doesn't have really much to say before or during the ceremony, until he hears Diem has a mortal brother, to which he is then disgusted to find out Diem is half mortal, which checks out since after he became the crown of Igneos following the Blood War, he's the one who punished the mortals by completely banning them from even stepping foot in his realm, and they met a terrible end when they were forced out of the realm. Moral of the story, Igneos is an asshole and we don't like him. So much more about him and Igneos next book. I was just rereading that part earlier, and it's like,
the next crown, maybe kind of an asshole, but man, oh man, we love her. The Queen of Umbros, Ircel, has officially entered the chat. When the Umbros Queen joins the rest of the crowns at the temple, she's all but vibrating with excitement, and Diem is surprised to turn around and find the striking, beautiful woman with full lips, long black hair, and an hourglass figure before her. This is a far cry from a hunched woman with a foot half in the grave that she met last book in the alley. Friendly reminder that the Queen of Umbros didn't cloak herself into being an old woman, but she went into Diem's mind and warped how she was perceiving reality to believe that an old woman was standing before her. Yes, it's an intrusion, but I have to admit that is the coolest magic. I love it so much. Now, see, I also wondered if she was like cloaking herself like in that, Umbros mind magic way to have everyone believe that she was like this young, beautiful queen, but she doesn't have any magic on Creel, so that would be impossible. So this is how she truly looks. But maybe she's just a walking embodiment of an orgasm a day keeps the descended aging away.
This does bring up a great point about other more mature-looking descended. Gareth and Remus were not in positions of power during the Blood War because their brother was not the Crown of Lumnos yet, but I bet they were alive. And Marth, we can't forget about Marth. She especially hates the mortals, and I guarantee she was around during the Blood War and was the Lumnos Ascended insisting on kicking the mortals out of the realm afterward.
Umbros honestly couldn't care less for decorum or the rules for these ceremonies because she does what she wants when she wants. Every little comment of hers gives so much teenager with senioritis vibes. Everything from her rolling her eyes when Sophos pushes back on her against sending a vial of blood last foraging day instead of showing up physically. Remember, she was with Diem and she saw that as more important. But why is she so excited for this particular event? Oh ho ho, because she's been waiting for this coronation day for a long time. Now, we don't know exactly what it was that Ircel knows, and I'm still livid that homegirl is dead because I have so many questions for her. But we can gather that she chatted with Father Umbros. We do know that for sure from Heat. And he told her that something big is coming, probably that the world is going to change forever. We do know that he's told her, or she at least knows that her crown is going to be passed soon. She knows she's going to be dying soon. Father Umbros might have also told her that Ophi is going to be defeated soon. Remember, because she was alive during the Blood War, she is one of the people who locked up Ophi Akai putting him away on Kirill. Well, then I'm also going to throw out another option, because she is the one who tells Diem to take the Rosebane at the end of Heat of the Everflame. So what if she also took Rosebane, chatted with the gods? Now, this is not in the Zoom conference room. This is like the executive office conference room. She chatted with the gods, and she knows more of what's going on because of that conversation. Like, I don't know, and I just can't wait to talk about her at length next book. The Umbros section next book, I am foaming at the mouth to get to. I can't wait.
I'm thinking that, yes, she knows more than the other crowns because she's had more visions or chats or whatever that might be with Father Umbros, while maybe other crowns like Montios saw more like visions and the bigger picture. I just can't wait to talk more about Umbros. We've asked Penn, like what we should especially pay attention to for Easter eggs, and her answer is anything that your cell says. So as the other crowns like Montios and Old Lumnus knew Diem is the daughter of the Forgotten, I feel like your cell is the only one who truly knows what that means. For Diem herself and for this world. She knows what's about to happen with Diem being other and with the Heartstone. She's watching the magic of this place repel Diem, and she's the only one who understands why. This is about to be the most entertaining ceremony ever. Although it does make me wonder if she thinks that she might see Ophiuchi, because she does know that he's going to come out because of the prophecy. But we're still not done meeting crowns. Last but certainly not least, we have the King of the North! Montios. He is an elderly man, if I had to guess, like 1,000 years old at least, with lavender eyes, a scraggly beard that goes past his knees, and he uses a walking stick. Diem wonders, and I think she's right, that usually he relies on his magic for his mobility in Montios, but here on the island, he has none. With his entrance here, we get more distinction between Diem and the other crowns, and her off-the-chart empathy levels. She offers to help the Montios king, while the others ignore him.
L to the other crowns. They're just like, oh great, the old man is here. Like, they're just such assholes to him. Anyway, as Diem's walking the Montios crown over to his obelisk, he looks over Diem's hair, then to her skin. Then he pulls her forearm out and puts her in direct sunlight, frowning at what he sees. This is never explained. I am waving my hands here saying, what?
I have my understanding is that he expects her to have gray skin like her father, just like she has his gray eyes and white hair, but she has tawny skin. So the missing piece that he is confused about right here is that Diem is half mortal. Her eyes turned gray, her hair turned white when she was young, but her skin has not changed. This daughter of the Forgotten is wholly different even from what he expected.
Okay, I like that. That makes a lot of sense to me. I forget that about Othi because I figured that he was just in a godstone chamber in the dark for, who knows how many centuries. And that's why his skin was gray.
But I will also say this about Montios, is he is so excited to see Diem here. He's like, oh my God, she's here. She's real. He's finally looking into those gray eyes.
But then the man who never speaks to anyone outside of his own realm, Montios, speaks in a whisper to Diem. He says, "Good luck, daughter of the Forgotten." Excuse me, what did you say, sir? Like your cell with Father Umbros, Mother Montios has spoken with the Montios king and told him that his reign is coming to an end. Now, whether or not he knew if it was going to be at this ceremony, we don't know. But he left a note to his heir before leaving to the ceremony, which does kind of make me think that he assumed it was going to be at this, that when we're in Montios and Heat, Diem will read. He says that he's at peace with the sacrifice he must make. Again, this makes me think that he knew his end was going to be here. Maybe he even knew that the Guardians' bombs were going to go off and the Montios king would die in the blast, and that's his sacrifice.
I wonder if when he sees her here for the first time, that's when he's like, oh, yes, this is the time now. Like, the daughter of the Forgotten is here. And all of that. And also, it does make sense, unfortunately, that he is the casualty with the bombing because he is the most northern.
Yeah.
And where did Orly have the bombs go off? In the north. So he was the closest to the explosion.
But he tells Diem in this note that he hopes she finds peace with her own sacrifice too. Not more sacrifice foreshadowing. This makes me so nervous because we don't know what sacrifice this is. I'm going to pretend that this is the foreshadowing for the end of Heat and Igneos being a douche canoe, and that's her sacrifice.
You're really starting to convince me about what is going to happen to Diem in Burn, especially with what your cell will say to Diem about sacrifices and yeah. Mm-hmm. 11 must fall. Yeah.
For one to rise. Give him my gift, daughter of the Forgotten. Anyway, but that's not all this note contains. It will also have a little tidbit from Blessed Mother Montios herself. Speaking of that 11, quote, 11 must fall for one to rise. Share the gift to pay the cost. A dying star will rekindle the spark. What is forgotten is not lost. Remember my sister's words, beware my brother's wrath. Good luck, daughter of the forgotten. We are going to hold off on all the foreshadowing for this because if that was the case, we would never leave this episode. And this is our third recording of the week. We need to sleep. So right now, I'm just going to instead focus on that's what he's heard from Montios. So him saying, good luck, daughter of the forgotten, makes a lot of sense. He's like, you got quite the road ahead of you, girl.
All I want to do is talk about this. Oh my gosh, I have so many questions, but it's okay. Heat, here we come. Once all the crowns are under their designated arches and in place for the ceremony to begin, Sophos begins their script starting with the history of the Heartstone. And it's coronation time! It's coronation day! It's coronation day! Who's ready for a mini archives? I know I am, because I can't wait to get into the Heartstone, especially because, wow, it is so important in this world, and I think very important for the finale of the series. Millennia ago, when the Kindred arrived in Amarian, they brought with them a piece of their home world, a glassy black stone that emits a faint glow from the inside, which is now known as the Heartstone. The Kindred shed their blood on the Heartstone to forge the spell that created the 9 realms, which is known as the Forging Spell. For the full download on all of that, please check out our Spark Episode 1 at Sophos Library. This Heartstone is the Crown's most precious secret, a truth they each guard with their life, so this is only information the 9 crowds of Amarian know. And we readers, obviously. Because if the Heartstone is destroyed, the realm will crumble and fall. So while Flameroot weakens a Descended and Godstone can kill a Descended, destroying the Heartstone would be the collapse of the Descended's rule as they know it. The forging magic, the magic of the realm's Descended, it would all dissipate. Because this Heartstone is what allowed the Kindred to weave their magic into this world and control how it can be used. I'm going to repeat that. This Heartstone is how the Kindred magic shapes this world. It is the source of the forging magic. It is literally the magic that is in Amarian. I love it. I will say it's very interesting how Diem is smirking and like, oh, they shouldn't have just told me this big secret. But she has promised to protect all her people, the Descended and the mortals. So it's again, kind of like she does get a little tunnel vision sometimes but it's also like, well, maybe if we just take away their magic, then we can figure out a better way of life, right? Also, while the stone looks like a giant hunk of glassy stone, it's incredibly resilient. It's not affected by weapons, hammers, magic, or even Gryvern fire. It can't be lifted or touched without risking losing a hand. That is why Orly's hand burned back when she accidentally touched it in the Spark Epilogue. It turned gray. And at the time, we were having all these crazy speculations, and anyway, here's the answer. Then a few Guardians will touch it too, and it will hurt them. They'll try to bomb it, thinking the crack is from their other explosives. But nope. Apparently, the only way to break it is Diem's blood. There are 2 types of magic in this world. The elemental blood magic that comes from the Kindred, that is the 2 types of magic that a Descended can have from that realm, and the magic of life and death that flows through everything. The Heartstone acts as a conduit between these 2 magical forces. And one more time, it's what allows the Kindred to weave their magic into Amarian and control how it can be used. Diem can even feel the magic radiating from the Heartstone and how it feels like Luther's aura with how immense of a push and pull the power is, which I love because this magical source is on an island where none of the Descended magic works. The King of Fortos says that the Heartstone works here, but Descended magic doesn't because the Kindred willed it. It would also make sense for the Kindred to make magic nullified here so that the focus can be on the forging magic emitted from the Heartstone. It's the one neutral zone in all of Amarian. If there are ever any issues going on between the crowns, they don't have their magic to, duke it out here. That's also why there's no weapons allowed here. They have to unite for the good of the world, even if shit's going crazy between them. But I also do have to wonder if the Everflame plays a part in this decision to not have other magic here too. Like, does that have something to do with why they literally can't have magic, maybe?
I could see it. I could definitely see it. Every year, this spell must be renewed by the crowns shedding blood onto the Heartstone on 2 occasions. One, Forging Day, every year like clockwork, and once whenever the new crown needs to be coronated. The shedding of the blood onto the Heartstone is how the forging spell gets renewed. Because without it, the borders of the realm will slowly start to break down and there will be no realms left. That also means that people can use magic wherever they go. what we see in Heat. Now, I do have a quick theory about the Heartstone. We learned from Doriel that the Heartstone cannot be picked up or touched if you want to lose unless you want to lose a hand, what you were saying earlier. But why do I have a feeling that Diem, on her many days on the Isle next book, she will pick it up and it won't burn or hurt her? I could absolutely see this being a part of how she gets off the island. We know that it was with the Heartstone that the Kindred forged the spell to create the 9 realms, so I could even see her using some kind of spell or using some kind of magic to break her entrapment on Kirill.
Ooh, I love that. And there is the fact that the Heartstone is like pushing Diem away with defensive magic. It does not want her here. No. Although it does like break, when it does break, it stops working. They can still use the Heartstone, so it's not like broken.
With each crown walking through their archway, they start to stand above their insignia of their realm, and Diem goes to repeat the movement. And instantly, a powerful energy radiating from the Heartstone overwhelms Diem. It becomes stronger, fiercer, and then boiling hot, like she's walking through tar. While she attempts to conceal the immense amount of pain and discomfort she's in with this feeling, Yrcel is the only one who looks at Diem with that knowing look in her eye. So hold on, because we still don't have answers for this. But that's not going to stop me from speculating. Is the Heartstone reacting because it knows Diem is about to free Ophi and it doesn't want her to do that? Is it reacting because she has the blood of the Everflame running through her? Is it reacting because it senses a presence from its home world? What does it mean? Why is it reacting to her?
Kindred's curse.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. I don't know what else that means, but Kindred's curse. No, I do think that because she is the daughter of the sacrificed one, like Ophiuchi is bad. Like the magic knows he's bad. He does not work within this world anymore because it was created literally without him.
Yes.
And so I think that the Heartstone really recognizes that she is so other from everything that this magical world is and represents. And that's also why, like for instance, in Heat, the Igneous King will say that Diem feels different in the forging magic. Like she shatters the magic that she steps on versus, I can't remember the other way that he was describing it, but I just read this part too. Anyway, it's as if she's both all of this magic and none of it at the same time. She's the embodiment of a push and pull with the magic. I think that since the forging spell was remade with only the 9 realms, Diem is, 1, not welcome because her blood is not part of these 9 realms. She does not fit into this forging spell and is literally not even supposed to exist. And number 2, she has, I'll call it raw kindred magic, which the kindred gave up their immortality via this Heartstone and the forging spell. So it's like, you're not supposed to be here. I do think it goes back to her being tied to Omnos and the Kindred's curse, which I'm thinking the Kindred's curse might even relate to why Ophiuchi is so gray. Maybe in some small way. I have no idea. I haven't developed this theory anymore yet, so I'm just throwing that out there. Since the purpose of this coronation is to recast the forging spell with the new crown's blood included, time for some blood shedding for each of these crowns. That sounds so daunting, right? Sophos has a special ceremonial dagger set with a series of milky white gemstones. When each crown sheds a drop of blood onto the Heartstone, their cauldron flame on top of the obelisk rises higher, or in the new crown's case, ignites for the first time in 30 days since the previously lit cauldron became extinguished when the old crown died. And those milky white gems turn the color of the realm when that blood is dropped onto the Heartstone. And, it was like pale pink, for instance, for Sophos. Where else have we seen representation of pale pink? The dagger that killed Andre. I really think the dagger was intended for Sophos by Bennett, but the Guardians took the weapon in the armory. I'm absolutely convinced it was the Guardians now.
I am too.
Oh my gosh,
I'm on Team Guardians, absolutely.
Yep. But back to this moment. Bottom line is, with this ceremony of putting blood onto the Heartstone, all these crowns are quite literally contributing to the unity of Amarian to ensure its magic stays stable.
By the time she gets to the podium, Diem is panting with effort. She follows Doriel's words of promises to serve her people well, and she notes it's as though the Heartstone may be doubting her intentions, even though she feels it with all her heart. In my notes here, I wrote, again, what does that mean? But honestly, I think you're so onto it, where it senses Ophiuchi and his magic and his intentions that he really is against the Kindred and all of that kind of stuff. And it's like, are you sure your daddy-o didn't like this?
Yes, exactly.
Holding out her hand, Sophos drags the ceremonial blade across her palm, but with how overwhelmed her senses already are, and, due to the temple's power, the Heartstone magic pulsing. She barely feels the cut. A tremor shakes through her arm, knocking a single drop onto the stone. And all hell breaks loose. An ear-splitting crack of thunder shatters the air, with gray clouds rolling in out of nowhere where it was once a cloudless blue sky, blocking out the sun's light and blanketing the sky in shadow. Diem looks to Sophos like, is this right? But they're looking down at the blade in their hand. The opalescent stones are smoky gray, not the blue of Lumnos. Uh-oh!
Smoky gray, which means whatever blood Diem has is not part of the Kindred's foraging spell. She's the daughter of the forgotten 10th Kindred.
One, keep in mind, right now, that Godstone temple that Ophiuchai's in, it is opening. So while this is all happening right now, his temple is opening and he's like, ah. There's a series of popping noises around the temple as each one of the obelisks causing each of the fires to die out. And then Diem squeezes her hand and a trickle of blood drops onto the Heartstone. And shockingly, out of nowhere, a bolt of lightning shoots down from the heavens straight onto the stone, causing a cloud of sparks that has Diem staggering backward and tumbling onto the floor. The other crowns are shouting. They're clinging to their archways while the ground quakes from a shockwave that ripples out from the temple across the island. When the chaos finally quiets, Diem scrambles back to her feet. The pressure of the Heartstone's defensive magic has completely vanished, leaving her now lightheaded and shaky. That's the least of your problems right now, Diem.
Which means the magic of the Heartstone has broken, right?
That's my guess, yeah.
She just broke it, and now the magic that the Kindred wove into this world is going to begin to crumble. As we see the borders start to do in Heat. We'll talk way more about that when we see that on the page there.
Well, and I think one of the big things that's happening right here is this is the breaking of the Kindred's curse, or this is maybe like or not even the breaking. Maybe this is the Kindred's curse coming to life because Forgotten Blood has finally fallen on the Heartstone and Ophiuchai has been released. And that was the curse.
I think that the curse goes way more back because I think that him getting locked up with the Blood War, the curse would have been going on before that. So
That's
I
true,
think the
'cause
curse
it's the
is
Kindred's
more
curse.
about Omnos existing, essentially.
Oh, okay.
And the magic and all of that. And maybe, I don't know.
Honestly, this is when I said earlier in the episode, we have maybe 60, maybe 50% knowing. This is the other 40, 50% that we don't know. And this might have skyrocketed itself into my number 2 spot of I cannot wait for Byrne to tell me what this means.
The other crowns, except for the Queen of Umbros, naturally, are frozen in shock. Like, what the fuck just happened? Diem just broke the Heartstone. Sophos accuses Diem of being an imposter. She can't be the crown of Lumnos. She must be something else, something other. The gemstones are supposed to turn blue, not gray. Poor Diem is just as surprised as everyone else, story of her life, though grasps for a defense. Talk to Umbros. She's the one who came to Lumnos, but then Diem gets cut off. I want to say she was about to say Umbros told her about the prophecy and how the Heartstone would break, but doesn't Diem not put that together until like way later in Heat?
Yeah, it's not until they're in the Second Chance in Umbros where she puts it together. So I think that she is just grasping for whatever she can and she's just pointing fingers. In the midst of all this finger pointing chaos, Diem sees a flash of coppery red hair, her mother's hair. Just outside the Kindred's temple, Orly Bellator, the woman who Diem has not seen in 8 months, who she knew was alive but totally unsure of where she was, is running towards her daughter. Not in excitement to see her daughter again. Instead, it is with fear in her wide eyes.
When I first listened to this on audio, I vividly remember rewinding and listening again because it was like, no way! Of course, in hindsight, it makes lots of sense. But wow, her mom has been on this uninhibited island this whole time. And why?
Boy, oh boy, we will get into it. But before Orly can get to her, a deafening boom and a blast of fire goes off. And then the whole world for Diem goes black. The Guardian's bombs successfully went off.
But we're not done yet because we still have an epilogue once again in Orly's POV. Rewind to when the first crown comes to Kirill and arrives at the temple. She's waiting for the big moment, staying hidden in the tall grass now that she's gotten everything ready for this Guardian mission that's been in the works for years. No evidence of her identity is here on the island? Check. She was able to smuggle a few bombs onto Korea when she came here with Luther, and now she's planted them on the north shore of the island. So her bombs can be the diversion to attract the army boats and give the Arboros Guardians the chance to load in more bombs from the south.
We can only imagine how happy Orly is to know that she's finally going home. For months, she's dreamed of seeing her family again. She's so excited to hold them in her arms. Oh my God, the literary irony, it hurts so bad. Orly doesn't know that Andre is dead. She doesn't know that Diem is queen, and she doesn't know that her family has quite literally turned upside down without her for the last 8 months.
It reminds me of how many times Diem has referenced how boring and mundane life was before the events of the story. Orly is still very much in that mindset that nothing at home changes, that it's all still normal life because that's how it's always been. And she thinks she can drop right back into it because in the past, a year is just another year of the same.
Well, and she does acknowledge how her family's going to be angry with her and they're going to resent her for leaving for 8 months with no words. But ultimately, she believes that they will come to learn/understand that her decision was ultimately for the best. Oh, Orly, little do you know that this is just the tip of what they're gonna be pissed off about, my girl. Is it weird that I honestly can't wait to talk about how complex Orly is next book? I almost want to do an Orly L count next book to see just how many she gets, because I do think it might rival Henry's.
Oh my gosh, I think you're right. While I can understand Orly's perspective, I don't think she's quite putting herself in her family's shoes. Wow, that's a teaser for the next book.
No.
But I will say this, it does make sense that she's had to convince herself of this and have this mindset for these past 8 months. She would have gone crazy if she holds too tight her concerns of what her family has been through and what they'll think of her.
I agree. And I think she could have used a little of that crazy. I'll say that. I think she could have used a little of it.
Well, okay, so this is where me, who watches a lot of Alone, that's where this comes in. Because she is stewing over it and worrying about what they've gone through with her absence, and it hurts her heart. So for her sanity, I think she's having to be like, okay, but they'll forgive me because the happiness and the relief will triumph everything. Like, life will go on just as it was. It's her coping mechanism that she needs to have in order to keep doing this on her own on this island day in and day out.
From her point of view, yes, I definitely see how that would have been for her sanity. Yeah.
Included in life like it's always been is Diem taking flame root. She does not know that her daughter has stopped taking flame root because, she told her daughter, you always have to take it, and she trusts that her daughter listened to her and is continuing to take it. Since she's on Korea, which is the only place that flame root grows, Orly is ready to ensure Diem has a supply for the next decade. She's got jars filling her satchel to the brim, so no matter what, she at least has that much when she departs the island. The worst case scenario will give Diem a few more years of nullifying her descended magic. Orly also has a sizable stash hidden near the Lumno stock, and if all goes according to plan, she'll be able to grab it before escaping to keep her well stocked. As we get Orly's inner monologue about the flame root and keeping Diem's true nature hidden from her, there's no remorse, no conscious weighing on her. She knows that someday, hopefully not for a long time, she will have to unearth some truths she's desperately buried. Since flame root does not prevent descended aging, and it'll come to light sooner or later that, Diem isn't aging like the rest of her family or mortals. But that's a later problem. First of all, as much as we want to be like, are you fucking serious, Orly? When I put myself in her POV, I get it. I don't agree with it, but I do get it. This was her solution 2 decades ago, 1 decade ago, as her daughter started getting her magic. She had to give her daughter flame root as she got her magic in to keep her daughter alive because of the progeny laws and all of that. And it's become her norm. This lie keeps life comfortable. It doesn't shatter the glass container she's built around Diem. Yes, someday it will have to shatter, but to Orly, this is always later because she's not ready to face the truth. But I also don't think she ever will be. And by waiting longer and longer and letting this become a bigger and bigger lie, now she's only protecting herself and their family comfort zone versus informing her adult daughter, which I'm going to say so much more about Orly's views on Diem as her, little warrior versus the adult woman she truly has become.
Oh, yeah. As she's hiding out in the bushes, watching the crowns starting to arrive on the island, someone sneaks up behind her, clamping a hand around her mouth and the other arm around her ribs, pinning her arms to the side. Surprise, motherfucker! It's Luther! As we talked about, Luther believes that Orly already knew that Diem was going to be queen, and this was all part of her greater plan. He feels like he was played by someone who was sort of-ish an ally.
Well, and while Luther knows Diem is the Grey-Eyed Queen sent by Lumnos, he also knows Orly too well to assume that she was not involved in knowing Diem would be queen. I want to make sure that both can exist, even though they're very polar opposites.
Yes. But one thing, Orly's like, Luther? Why aren't you the king? Now the surprise is on Luther because it turns out that Orly really didn't know. And hearing Luther talk to Orly about Diem, especially in a way that kind of senses a little familiarity, is shocking. Orly, before leaving, gave Luther explicit warnings to never go near her daughter. So hearing that he sounds familiar with her has her hackles rising.
Oh, she has to be so confused and terrified for her daughter. Luther has spoken many empty threats about her family before, and Orly has zero context that her daughter has even been near the Descended. So yeah, I'm not surprised that this mom is like, what the fuck did you do, when Luther says just as determined to get yourself killed as Diem.
So this does raise a question for Luther. If Orly is not on the island because of Diem, then why is she on the island? Oh my God, you about to find out.
All of this to say, is this mysterious new queen an ally or enemy? I do like how Orly asked this question so early on. It has such a loaded meaning with what she and Luther have secretly been doing under the royals' noses for so long. And it's also so intriguing to get a different perspective of someone who hasn't known everything that's gone down, but is still connected to our characters. If only she was willing to take a few more moments to get caught up. But no way, Jose! This mission that Luther does not know about has been in the works for years. She's been waiting for this precise moment on this island in solitude for 8 months. Luther's persistence to get her to come with him is futile. This is her one shot. Do not miss a chance to blow. This exchange between them really does show their relationship so well. There's trust in one another, but also mistrust in every other way.
Getting away from Luther by, again, I cannot say this enough, slicing his ankle tendons open. God fucking damn it, Orly. She runs towards the temple as she watches the sky rapidly darken and the lightning strike through the sky. And she runs into Vance. Oh, thank goodness. Vance is here. Again, Orly. She has no idea that Vance has been on a killing tirade and maybe even possibly killed her husband. Oh, but pause, because we realized we left a huge piece of info from Andre's murder site that would have immediately pointed fingers towards the Guardians. And a lot of you were very sweet in reminding us about it, is there is tissue under Andre's nails. Descended skin cannot be punctured by fingernails, but mortal skin can.
Assumably not punctured by fingernails.
True.
But I do think that's correct, yes. Yeah. I'm still kicking myself so much for not bringing that up in episode 5. But with Vance here, that means their mission is able to continue as planned. He's one of the few people she told after all.
And she does trust him. She's the leader of the Guardians who left this dude in charge. But Vance, I guess, I guess I'm going to give him a little bit of credit. He feels like before Orly acts and, blows up the temple, there's, quote, something you should know. Is he really sharing information of like, hey, your daughter, who I kind of hate, she's in that temple? But also, he wouldn't do anything to jeopardize this mission. And I feel like it wouldn't take a genius to realize that, oh, if you tell her that her daughter is in the temple, she's going to go running. Also, if he maybe killed her husband, why the fuck would he care if she killed her daughter? Maybe I just really don't think highly of this asshole.
Well, that's a good thing to think, but he does get Diem to safety-ish after the explosion. He knows they need her blood to get into the palace. He has his own reasons to keep Diem alive. So I do think that he's saying to Orly that her daughter is the crowned, because that does kind of change things. I'm not saying to completely stop the mission, but he needs Diem alive and he doesn't want her to die in the explosion. And he also promised Henry that he would not hurt her, which I really don't think that has any weight in this factory. But anyway, yeah, or maybe Orly would be able to convince her daughter to be more on the Guardian side. No, because he hates all Descended. So he all I know is he needs Diem's blood and he's not done with her yet.
Okay, that's a fair point. I still wanted to reach out to Penn because I wanted to clarify what exactly it was that he was trying to tell Orly before the temple goes boom. So let's hear from Penn.
Your final question is, what was Vance going to tell Orly when he said there's something you should know? This one's very easy. Yes, he was definitely going to tell her about Diem. I know that we see Vance as a troublesome guy, a guy who makes some very unkind choices many times. But he and Orly had worked together for many, many years. And I do think he wanted to warn her that his daughter had taken the crown, so that Orly didn't accidentally go after the new Queen of Lumnos and end up hurting her daughter. While there's a lot of lines that Vance will cross, that I don't think is one of them. So that's the end of your Glow questions. Enjoy the rest of the book. Cheers.
Okay, there we go.
I just hate Vance and think very poorly of him.
Oh my gosh, she's like, he makes some unkind choices. It's like, yeah, he does. That's one way of saying it. Okay, so we know what Orly's plan for the Guardians mission here and all of that has been, set off the bombs on the northern side. Now with the Guardians, a small group of them went to the island right before the attack, and then they were going to light the fuses of the rest of the bombs. Now it's very interesting that taking the island was not plan A for the Guardians. This was just kind of like how things ended up working out here. And I just can't wait to get into all of that in heat once we are in Arboros.
Now here's my question, because we know that the goal was to not hurt the Queen of Arboros and Luther of Lumnos, but there was no guarantee for the new queen, which is why Orly's like, yeah, she's on her own until she realizes it's her daughter. How many casualties do you think that they were expecting?
I kind of think that was the point. I
so
can't
too.
remember exactly, but I do think that it was their big show of power.
Orly does say it was not her intention to kill anyone.
That is true.
I don't think that was Vance's line of thinking, though.
Oh, absolutely.
No. I bet he was like, the more crowns, the better. Anyway, just as the temple is about to blow, long, wavy white hair and terrified gray eyes catch Orly's vision. It cannot be stated enough how out of the realm of possibilities this sight is for Orly. She knew her daughter is descended. That's why she's been drugging her for half her life. But never in a million years would it have been a thought that that she would have been in the world of this descended, like her powers manifesting. She was told to take the flame root after all. And B, that Diem would have been the most powerful descended in all of Lumnos. I also think that after 10 years of giving Diem flame root, it became so out of sight, out of mind for Orly. So Orly was basically burying her head in the flame root sand and thought that all would be okay. But obviously, it is not. She just lit a fuse that is going to explode in the very temple where her daughter is. So she begins to run, Orly, run, screaming Diem's name. But it is too late. Everything explodes. What a cliffhanger!
In this magic field segment of the episode, let's tap into our Umbros magic and turn our full attention to important foreshadowing moments for Heat and speculations for Book 4, Burn of the Everflame. I'll kick it off here. The night of the dinner after the challenging, it's so bittersweet because yes, I'm so happy for them, but it's also the last time this inner circle will be together and happy like this. It's like, I'm so happy that they get to have this last final night of joy and celebration before shit just absolutely hits the fan.
Diem thinks, quote, whatever plans Lumnos and her kindred siblings had in store for me, they would have to wait. I love this addition of and her kindred siblings because we know that Omnos, and we strongly assume Ophiuchi, which is one of the same, again, we strongly assume, is one of the kindred siblings that has plans for his daughter.
From the corner of Diem's mind, a thought appears. Alix would be a fine High General, and she's right. Once when they go to Umbros, Diem will announce that Alix is her new High General, thus taking the title from Luther. It's okay, she's got a different title for you, Lou, which he will accept because at the time he's dying, but he also believes it's the right choice too. After all, Alix's responsibility is to the realm. Luther's is to Diem. Conflict of interests and all that, yeah.
With Remus having a promise with Diem to keep her brother safe in exchange to keep his no magic secret shut, Remus kind of breaks his promise with Diem. Ish, kind of. We will learn in Heat that it is Remus who tells Teller about the Sophos position for his mortal education, and that's what makes him break up with Lily and end up going to Sophos. Now, does he know that he's putting Teller in danger? Not really, I don't think so at least, but he's definitely not keeping him safe. Diem wonders about the prospect of any Gryverns losing their lives, and she learns about how if they touch Kirill soil, they will instantly die. Is it just me or does this feel like foreshadowing? And I swear to God, if it's Tybalt or Sarai, I will lose my shit. I don't think it'll be Sarai.
I would be so sad. They have to be together. Also, I have so much more to say on Temple and how he's just such a good Gryvern and he's got such a terrible king with him right now. I'll save all of that for our Ignatius part of it too. When Diem looks at the Kindred's temple for the first time and recognizes the glittering black stone, she thinks like in the back of her mind how it reminds her of something, but she can't quite figure it out. I think it is from her family home, and it was that glittering black, the godstone that she accidentally created.
Yes, I agree. And last but not least, this is purely speculation, but we know that the Everflame once existed on Kareel. So what if Diem, while trapped on the island, finds the roots of the Everflame tree that the Kindred, according to lore, chopped down? And through finding the roots, it allows her to tap into something Everflame-y and break the curse that binds her to the Isle?
I love the idea that she might find some of the roots or something like that, because when she touches that Everflame, is it the mural or something like that, that actually does have a little bit of the Everflame in it, at least according to legend, it lights up and it glows. Yep. And so I could see her feeling some kind of magic and be like, what the heck is this magic?
I love it. Oh my God. It is time to enter the Sophos Library, where each episode, Lexi guides us through a world building topic to help us deepen our understanding of this world, the islands in it, and its magic.
Like I mentioned earlier, today's Sophos Library topic is Kareel. Kareel is the island at the center of Amarian. It is separated from the mainland by the Sacred Sea. Kareel is the neutral, central location for all the rituals of the 9 crowns. These rituals are Foraging Day, which we covered in the Spark Episode 1 Sophos Library, and the Rite of Coronation that was supposed to happen this episode. And Kareel is supposed to be the most well-guarded place in Amarian, with a fleet of Fortosian ships patrolling just off the island's shores to ensure that nobody else goes to it. In mortal schools, they are taught that Kareel houses the Kindred's temple. This is where the sibling gods conducted the first foraging spell, which divided Amarian into its realms. And again, like we've talked so much about, that's how they wove their magic into this world. While in descended schools, they teach that the mortal leaders gave the island to the Kindred as a gift and as a symbol of the mortals' willing submission to descended rule. But in forbidden mortal books, it's told that Kareel was a sacred place long before the Kindred arrived. It is believed that the island was once home to the Everflame, the sacred tree of life and death from the old mortal religions. According to these forbidden books, once the Kindred arrived, they decided to anoint themselves as divine rulers, and they chopped the Everflame down to make room for their temple. Kareel was a major battleground during the Blood War fought centuries ago. The island was a fiercely sought-after prize that both mortal rebels and descended wanted for themselves. Not only is the island symbolically cherished by both sides, but it is also the only battleground in Amarian where the descended have to fight the mortals without the benefit of their magic or their Grypherns, placing them on near equal footing. And by the end of the battle, this ground was covered in rivers of blood from both sides. It makes sense that the descended have fought so hard to keep this island out of mortal hands because, as we talked about this episode, there is a rumor that the temple is the source of all descended magic, and I'll get more into that here in a second. Let's talk about the geography of Kareel. It is a lush island full of wild overgrowth, tall vegetation and growing grass, and walls of foliage, along with a whole bunch of flame root flowers. There are also gravel roads that weave in and out of this tall grass that go from the docks to the temple up there. The Kindred Temple is the main structure on Kareel, and it is built to serve as a symbolic map of Amarian. It is made entirely of Godstone, with a staircase that curves up around the outside to a circular platform high above the ground, edged nearly all the way around by a series of ornate archways topped with tall, thin obelisks. Each of these obelisks are topped with a flame-lit cauldron, and each of these 9 arches point toward its respective realm, with the realm emblems etched into the floor and carved deep into the tall obelisks, where they glow as if lit from within. In the center of this open-air rotunda, representing the island of Kareel, a low pedestal holds the Heartstone, which, like the mortal rumor said, is the crown's most precious secret, a truth they each guard with their lives, because if the Heartstone is destroyed, the realms will crumble and fall. Now, while we won't know this until Heat, near the temple is a hidden door that leads to an underground chamber that Ophiuchi has been held in since the Blood War for centuries. This chamber door is nearly invisible behind overgrown weeds. Before stepping foot on Kareel, there are a few rules to follow. Firstly, only the crowns are permitted to step onto the island's ground. Everyone else is forbidden. And even the crowns are only permitted on the island during the rituals. There are a couple exceptions to this. Like when Ulthar was sick, someone, aka Luther, had to bring a vial of his blood to the Foraging Day ceremony, or when the king of Fortos sent Orly to the island for a spying mission. Next, when a crown goes to the island for a meeting or ritual, they cannot bring weapons, escorts, gryverns, or use their magic. These last two, no gryverns and no magic, are impossible rules to skirt around. When the Kindred casts a foraging spell, they also made it so no magic can work on the island, and gryverns are not able to set foot on the ground without unfortunately dying instantly. When Diem sets foot on the island for the first time, she describes the feeling of losing her magic as a horrible emptiness engulfing her body, as if her very soul has been siphoned out. She couldn't conjure shadows, feel Sarai, or even feel the foraging magic of Lumnos. As for the other two rules about weapons and escorts, there is no one standing guard to check for weapons, and with how easy Luther was able to get onto the island, this feels more like the honor system. To be honest, there is also a rule about crowns not being allowed to step off the path until they are coronated. I'm assuming that this is due to the flame root that grows on the island, but again, there's nothing stopping anyone from, stepping off the path. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, that is what we know about Kareel, everybody.
Let's close out this episode with skipping around the apple orchard and discussing our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters. Everything about the reenactment that the Crown's Council does to do a play-by-play of Diem's challenging. From Taryn playing Diem because, of course he would, and calling Ron, quote, limp dick Ghislaine, to Diem narrating and getting Teller, who hates being in the spotlight, to play Ron, to Luther playing along and poking Taryn in the ass with shadow magic, to Teller being hog-tied by Taryn's magic, and of course, Luther is watching Diem instead of the reenactment, which I just melt over. Oh my gosh. While I'm swooning over Luther, when Diem reaches out with her aura and allows it to play with Luther a little, his eyes snap to hers, and she wonders how exactly her aura toyed with him. I wonder that too, Diem. All right, Lexi. You gave me such a hard time when I gave Henry the first ever smiting L for looking at Diem with pride in his eyes for the first time after 21 years of knowing each other, even though she was one of the best healers. She was really good at fighting, all of that stuff. So allow me to quote a passage from Diem's POV chapter. When Luther offers Diem a glass of wine, his blue-gray eyes shine with, quote, radiant pride. Entire quote. Henry had looked at me like this once after I completed my first Guardian mission at House Bennett. At the time, I'd been spellbound by his newfound reverence at the idea that anyone could see me as someone capable of greatness, a leader worthy of following, deserving of being admired. It wasn't until now that I realized Luther had always looked at me like this. Need I say more? I mean,
I agree with you. It's just the smiting L was like, whoa,
it was so deserved.
I
don't even care. It is so deserved.
When Lily is on the table dancing, Teller is pacing the floor, holding his arms out every time she steps too close to the edge. He's just the epitome of a golden retriever.
The mortal drinking songs that Diem teaches Taryn about the Descended. Some highlights of these songs include, quote, beware their charm, stay out of their beds, if only their dicks were as big as their heads. They'll stab your back, then cut your throat, then steal your wife and defile your goat. Last one. They rob, they cheat, not a true word they say, and worst of all, they're a lousy lay. I can see you and I skipping through somewhere.
That's another fun thing that we could do with. Yes! Pen! As
Luther is watching Diem and Taryn dance on the table, smiling and laughing, so full of life, his chest swells in gratitude that she is alive and he is alive to witness it. So he sends out a spark of pale blue light and a wisp of shadow and gives them to Lumnos in a prayer. We've heard about how the Descended pray and how the magic they give to the divine is forever gone. But seeing it from his point of view and just it being like a natural, here you go, thank you so much, Lumnos, for this moment. I loved getting to witness that. That was so cool.
I adore how Diem wears a silk gown of gray blue for her coronation as a little nod to Luther. The color reminds her of his eyes, and it's like she wants him there with her.
Oh, that's so cute.
And that's it, friends. Thank you so much for listening and being on this deep dive journey for Glow of the Everflame. We appreciate you joining us for these 7 episodes.
Next Monday, we are wasting no time and kicking it off with Heat of the Everflame, covering chapters 1 through 14 for episode 1.
Might as well go ahead and start reading now if you're reading along with the deep dive, because it's a lot of pages, and that's going to be a running theme with our heat coverage. Our bros, here we come. We would love to give the biggest warm welcome to our newest Crowns Council members.
Welcome. Chelsea M, Elena, Mackenzie, Tila, and Renee. Welcome. We appreciate you so much. Thank you for supporting the show.
And if you're like, hey, I want my name shouted out on the podcast and to be shouted with all the love and attention too, join our fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. A link is also in the show notes.
Thank you, as always, to our top Sophos scholar, aka our content researcher, Brooke, and of course, our executive producer, aka our sanity manager, Hayden. You have kept us alive this week, my guy. This is our 3rd recording in 1 week.
That is outrageous for us at Fantasy
We're not
Fangirls,
doing that
by the
again.
way. We are not doing that again. We are very active on social media with weekly trivia, games, and lots more. So please be sure to follow us on Instagram and/or TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube or want to watch on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button to keep following along.
And while you're hitting buttons, please hit that 5-star rating and review button. If you're feeling a little extra generous, write a little love note in that review section. It's the biggest warm hug that you can give, not just this podcast, but any podcast you listen to. And last but not least, friends, share the love by sharing this episode with your fellow Everflame friends. If you were also debating what the hell the size of this boat is, I'll be curious to see how much of that argument ends up on the cutting room floor. Then you can send this episode to them and you can have a friendly debate in your text messages.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
We'll see where we put that in the episode.
Oh, man. Poor Hayden.
Meanwhile, I'm like, I am not throwing away that shot.
That says so much.
I know.
Yes. You are, I'm going to double check that you take your allergy medicine before every recording after
seriously.
this.